Hello everyone, and thank you for joining in tonight. We are picking back up with PHPOnline. Why have I got something random floating on my screen? There we go away. So we are picking back up with PHPOnline tonight. Yeah, we started last stream. We started playing around with it again. We started picking it back up, having a look at it and seeing what we could do. We had some default users so that we could easily log in. We started looking at the data modeling for how we wanted things to work, which meant we started creating some articles and some categories, started just setting things up and getting ourselves ready, I suppose. And today we're going to carry on. So today we are going to be more looking at the LiveWire aspect. Hey wifey, thanks for joining. And hey kids, Annie and Logan, I know you're watching. I'm sure your mum, my youngest fan, say hello. Hey kids. So today we are going to kind of carry on. Let me move this over here so we can be a bit more organized. We've got plan that side and we've got browser that side. So what we're going to have is we want to work on a way to let people start writing articles, right? It's kind of like the aim, I suppose, of PHP online in general. Obviously, we are going to be running tests because apparently API support is not available. I don't know what's going on with that. Cool. Yeah. We're going to carry on. Obviously, we're going to do this test-driven development. We're going to be doing stuff along the way. So why not just dive in? You know, no point hanging about, is there? So the first thing we need to think about is the idea of PHPOnline is an engaging community platform that's aimed to help people find content and for people to promote their content to other people, basically. Whether that would be articles that they're writing on the platform or articles that they're going to be pulling into an RSS feed, or whether that be any of the different ways that we're going to be enabling it. We're going to be allowing people to pull in their packages. Wow, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So they can promote the open source work that they're doing. Maybe connect with GitHub, probably not. There might not be much point if we're already doing packages because we're focusing on the PHP community. Yeah, we're going to be mentoring jobs, speaking stuff. Yeah, there's going to be as much as I can add to it. And as it's an open source project, add what you like. Basically, I'm just going to probably end up paying for like Laravel Vapor or something to get this running. And just pay for the hosting and let people use it. And have it as a free community resource, free to use. There's going to be like some stuff going on in the background for moderation to make sure that we don't get any sort of spam added. But other than that, we're good. We are good. So we've got Fortify stuff. We've got a couple of enums going on. Got some controllers. We haven't really added much yet. Article show. We're going to come back to that one. So let's just get started, shall we? So we've got pages within there, articles and profile. Hey, thanks Martin. Hey everyone, thanks everybody for joining so far. So as you can see, these are all of the ones that are kind of included with Jetstream. All of this there. So that's kind of what I'm going to do, and I'm going to rewrite that as and when I need it. Not a big fan of the default tests. I'd rather write my own and manage them that way. Yeah, I've got 2 tests now. I can get an article, I can get a profile page. We're good up to this point. So basically the idea is that when you sign up, you get auto assigned a username, and then you can update it. Or I might just change that, tweak the Jetstream stuff and allow you to kind of set that on registration and do some magic. But we're going to be leaning on the tool stack. Hey, think of us. So yeah, that's the plan. So the first thing is when we log in, we're going to go to somewhere called the dashboard, right? We're going to go to our dashboard. So let's just start some TDD magic around this. So dashboard test. Yep, we're going to add everything to version control because that's how we do stuff. And the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we can actually get to this page, right? Why am I not using Docker? I use Docker for work. I've been using Docker all day. I don't know. It's easier not to. I mean, I'm more than happy to, you know, set up a Docker configuration for this, but this just works, you know. And it works for me. Hey, Ben. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say, okay, it can load the, or it redirects to login if not authenticated. So this is going to be, you know, Jimmy the guest going off to go view something. Simplify that one. The URI is going to be a root. I've actually been writing APIs and API tests all day, so I'm very much in the API space right now. So we're just going to go to like pages, dashboard, index. We're going to make that root, and we're going to assert status, and the status that we're going to use, have I installed my library? Yes, I have. Is it what did I call it? What did I call it? We found it. But that is technically redirect, but from Wikipedia they said that was the correct status, which is a bit strange. So we're going to 302 it, and that is what we're going to expect. So let's make it fail. Obviously, you know, that root does not exist. So the first thing we need to do is actually create it. Yeah, I've got GitHub autopilot running on in the background. Not big. I like it for some things. Don't get me wrong; it can be pretty cool. But for some stuff, it does kind of get in the way. If I'm honest, it's definitely not going to be replacing us anytime soon. There's still loads of decisions you need to make around how to get it to work. So the first step is let's start creating routes. So in our web down here, where's our dashboard there? So I'm going to add a value of pages in a group. So what I could probably do actually here is move this up a level. Hey Alex, probably move this up to the root service provider, right? I mean, don't need that bit. Let's clean this file up. Obviously don't need that. I'm going to clean some stuff up and just make it kind of to our liking, or to my liking, should I say. There we go. So we've got rate limit for API. Nice big callback. Just gonna leave it like that for now. Just shorten it down so it looks like you can read it a little bit easier. Max attempts by that. There we go. Makes it a little bit more legible for me personally. I mean, maybe not for you, but for me it's definitely more legible. Obviously we don't want the namespace, that can go away. Namespace there can go away as well. Middleware web as pages there. So that means now we can come back to web here. We don't actually need that. So there's some static pages that we'll have up there. And then what we can do is we can kind of prefix dashboard as dashboard. Then we can start to group these. Let me spell function correctly to start with. No, my kids aren't developers. Maybe they will be one day. Who knows? Who knows? We're just going to add some middleware in here as well. There we go. Drop some middleware in there as well. And then we're going to group stuff here. So what we really want, we've got a view here. So we're just going to do a root view. / goes to dashboard, and we're just going to name that index because that's our dashboard index, right? Which means we can now get rid of that. I did that in the complete wrong place. There we go. So let's see if we can fix this up a little bit. Middleware as group. There we go. We can start seeing things again now. Looks a bit nicer. So here's our roots, and here's our first one, which is the dashboard. So if we go to code sites and PHPOnline, let me just resize this so you can actually see it, because since switching over to the MacBook, I've not been able to see my entire screen when streaming. There we go. You can see the top, you can see the bottom, we're good. So you see what I'm typing in the command line, right? Perfect. Root users profile not defined. Don't really care. Where's that coming from? It can load the user's profile page. Okay, so we can refactor that part. So that means we can come down to pages, articles as well, I'm assuming. So we can go to pages article show, and we're passing. We're good. We got test passing now. So we redirect if we're not logged in, which is what we expected. So that means we can start working on our dashboard. Annie waves. Hi. Wow, that's a good question, Albert. With the way I'm very critical about my coding style, how fast or efficient are you at work? Luckily, I'm a manager. That's all I'll say. I'm actually working on a project at the minute, a client project. Managed to build a handful of API endpoints today, which were fully tested. PHP stand level 9 with OpenAPI spec against them, along with any other kind of management tasks that I had to do. So still, I mean, you can automate a lot of the standards that you can do when it comes to kind of your coding style and how you like to write code. You can even set up PHP Storm to do a lot of it for you as well. So next, where are we? So redirects to login if not authenticated. we'll do a very simple kind of it can load the dashboard page, because obviously that's going to be important as well, right? We've got to do a get request to pages dashboard index, and we're going to assert the status code here. It's going to be HTTP OK. So this is obviously going to fail to start with. Yeah, it's how do you measure efficiency as well, right? It's not always possible to be 100% efficient, but at the same time, it also is. I'm going to log in using user factory. Great. This is where it just complains, isn't it? So user factory create. That gives an ID. So run our tests again. We're still failing. Cool. Login. Oh no, we don't want the ID there. My bad. That isn't my bad. There we go. Forbast. Yeah, we do actually have a package at work. GitHub.com. Jump 24. So we've got PHP code and standards, and we've got Laravel code and standards, which we adhere to. There I am up there. Little old me. So they're public repos, but they're not actual packages yet. Oddly enough, my work actually sponsor me on GitHub. I'm waiting for them to stop. We're going to realise, wait, we're double paying him. Why are we doing this? So we've got this package here, and what it does currently, it does some stuff for you. Basically, it's got PHP Stan, it's got easy coding standards, it's got a few other things as well. It's super useful. Definitely, if you're looking for like just a quick install so you can get stuff done, it's good. And then all we do is we just do a composer run ECS or composer run something in our CI toolchain, basically, and it works. And it works really well. How does PEST handle database transactions? Let me show you. In PEST, down here, you start by saying we want to say that any test within this directory is going to use these classes or traits. Haven't done my usual cleanup in here, have I? There we go. There we go. Starting to clean up. So test cases, everything within there, we would do that. And I always do it on a separate line. So what I typically do is refresh database, and then I simplify that one, and there we go. That is how that works. But in our PHP unit down here, I would typically uncomment that as well. So when I run a test, it's going to run everything and migrate, and it's going to do this, it's going to do that. So these are going to fail because things haven't been created properly yet. I've not done it correctly. So what I'll do, I'm just going to comment that out for now, so I know I need to come back to it. Article, blah blah blah, slug, factory, article, author. Yeah, we're gonna come back to that one. I need to go back to some of the factories on that one. Yeah, there's acting at. Do you think that's better, Adrian? You know what? Adrian seems to be the guy who's on every single stream I watch. I'm not gonna lie. He is on every stream giving advice, and it's amazing. There we go. Acting as, and then we just pass through a user. Done. So we don't actually have to auth log in. I suppose acting as is just going to do it in the background, yeah? Acting as is doing something similar in the background. So let's just make sure that is still working. Cool. Let's whip it. Lazily refresh it. That is actually one of the newer ones that Luke Downing created, isn't it? I haven't tested it yet. Lazily refresh database. It was a really good addition, I'm not going to lie. What it basically does is, if you need to interact with the database, it will do it for you. Just some super cool stuff. So let's run those tests. We're focusing. We're not going to worry about that or the article one that we did because, well, we're not there yet. I added them just as a quick test while I was there doing stuff. So we're going to focus on the dashboard stuff for now. So let's just crack on with this. So we've got a dashboard. We're acting as, and we can load the dashboard page. Basically, we are good. So let's go look at some Laravel LiveWire stuff, because that's what we're doing today. We're going to be doing LiveWire. We're focusing on that view layer. So if I just quickly log in, let me take my fingerprint. Thank you. Don't know where the button's gone. Where is the button? The button's like just completely disappeared. Okay, credentials don't match our records because we are running tests without using their separate database. So there we go, we're in Jetstream. So this is our dashboard. This is dashboard index. As you can see down here, we are on models, mails, gate, session, request, root, get dashboard, pages dashboard index. We're in the right place. We've got this one view so far. I'm not going to worry too much about like all of the aspects of it, like the navigation and that sort of stuff. I'm going to try to focus on a few things, because we're going to be looking at Filament to do some stuff here. I don't know if anybody here has ever used Filament, but it is absolutely awesome if you're using ToolStack. So personally, I'm not using the ad panel. I'm going to be using the form builder, and what I'm going to be using is the markdown editor. So what I can do is I can just go markdown editor, make content, and that's it. I mean, honestly, I've not used it before, so we'll see how user-friendly it is just to get started. Let's go right to the top. Getting started. Field customer. We're just going to have to see what we can do, right? So let's give it a go. Let's do an old try it and see. So, first things first. We know we can load that page. That is loading a very specific view. That's got middleware around it, and it's an internal part of the application, so we don't need a controller. You know, why would we add a controller to this? It makes no sense. Don't do it yourself. We're going to create a very quick create a new route. So dashboard. Then what we're going to do is articles are going to be in here. So managing articles are all going to be nicely grouped together. So we can say let's prefix articles as articles. Let's group it all. Yeah, logical groupings makes things easier to find. So okay, so this is where it's kind of cool, right? It's finding that Laravel convention, mixing it with kind of what you've done so far, and just saying, here you go, have that. That's how we're going to do it. And that's relatively close to how I want to do things. other than I use single action controllers. So the only thing I need to change, other than commenting that out so that I can use the CLI. So this is one problem that I found, is when I add something to the roots file, then I go to make the controller, and then I can't make the controller because the roots file is dying. It's a little bit of a pain, but you know, you learn to work around these things, right? So we're going to make a controller. This is probably going to be in pages, within dashboard, within articles, and we're going to have an index controller invocable. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm not going to do it in here. I'm going to do this over in here. So let's just quickly do that. We've done one. That means I can now come over and say, actually, now we also want to create. We also want the store. We also, hey from Turkey, we want the store, we want show, edit, update, and destroy, right? So that's store, we want show, we want edit, we want update, and we want destroy. I like to call it delete personally. Yeah, I try not to use Copilot where I can help it. If I'm really honest, I use it as a guideline, as a this is cool, look what it can do. But that's about it, if I'm honest. Okay, so pages, dashboard, articles, index, controller class. So that is a root. If I zoom out, you'll probably lose sight of it a little bit. But we've got a app, HTTP controllers, pages, dashboard, articles, index. And the reason I don't do the namespace in the anywhere else, or don't stringify this in any way, is that it allows me to hold down command, click, and go straight through to it, which you lose if you do it this way. Like, even if I uncommented that, you know, I can't click through that. It's a bit of a pain. So we'll do it this way and we are good. So what I want to make sure I'm doing is writing tests, because it's not just going to be me using this. Pages, dashboard, test. What I'm probably going to do is dashboard there, have an articles test within there. So we want to say it can load the articles, the dashboard articles page. It's a little bit like an admin panel, but it's not really an admin panel at the same time. So can load the dashboard articles page. Yeah, I've heard some good things about LiveWire ID. I just haven't used it yet. So we're going to do a quick GET request to pages, dashboard, dashboard, articles, index, and the status we are going to assume we get a set status of HTTP. Okay. What we better do first is acting as. We have to do that on every single one, aren't we? We'll figure this. We'll figure parts of this out. So that user is going to be a user model factory create. Let's just quickly simplify that one. And we're passing. We're looking good. It can load the dashboard articles page, so we're getting there. We're getting a 200 OK, and we are so far so good. We don't need to worry about that one. This part is working. So what we want to do here is we want to say we're going to get the articles for the logged in user, obviously. So we will get the articles and then return a view, basically. Now, getting the articles here, we could either get them here or we could get them in the LiveWire component. And this is where we start to talk about component design as well. So typically what I do at this stage is to say, okay, I'm going to lean on LiveWire to start with and refactor if I need to. So I'm going to go to Pages, Dashboard, Articles, Index. That is the view I'm going to go to. And we want to make sure that we return the right contract. That is going to be returning a view. As a request, clean some of that up. I haven't had a chance to turn around and do any of your stubs on this one yet. No, I could do, but I kind of just, I like to see that full namespace because, I don't know, I just do. I like to keep it in there. Adding it to the top isn't really adding any benefit. Unless it's starting to get a little bit kind of unwieldy, then I'd probably keep it as is. I mean, I could kind of go, okay, so, swap that. I could move all of that up to the top and go, okay, so Pages, Dashboard, Articles, but that's not a full namespace. I don't know, it's just, I suppose I'm just really picky. I'm just a little bit picky. So there's a view. So obviously now if I run my tests, we're going to fail because we're getting a 500 error where the view does not exist. Pages, Dashboard, Articles, Index does not exist. So we can go ahead and start creating some stuff. So it's all about that red-green refactor. So here's views. So what we want to do is new directory. We're going to go to Pages, Dashboard, Articles, there's probably a quicker way to do that. And using the LiveWire plugin, yeah, I know you can do a lot of this really quickly, but not everybody's got the LiveWire plugin. So I try not to assume some of that and assume that people are going to be using it. So we've got your articles, and we're just going to not worry about that. And now we're good. So if we come back to here, we can go to Dashboard, Articles, and we've got a page. So we don't actually need that slot anymore, which is good. XR app layout, that's all good. Here's our articles, that's there. So we can start looking at some of this stuff. So the component design that we're going to want to do is, I like to have a reactive component per page, mostly. So I don't know if anyone's ever used this, but Spotlight UI, LiveWire, they've renamed recently. Wire Elements they're called now. I use this quite a lot for some of the stuff that I do, and it is what I am going to be adding later on, but to start with, I won't add it. That is a good shout there, Adrian. So I could just save some time and just create it all in one go, but you know, I'm just too old school. That's all it is. I just can't bring myself to do it sometimes. So let's start thinking about components. So we want a page component for like our articles index. So we're going to say, okay, so make a LiveWire component. This is in our dashboard under articles, and we're going to have a list articles component, and that is where we're starting. So what we could do is we could still keep parts of this there, or we'll just keep all of it for now, but we can go, okay, we have got dashboard articles, list articles. So we can come over to here. This will eventually list them. So if we come over to LiveWire, dashboard articles, list articles here, we can uncomment that. Oh, why is it no load? So there's our view, dashboard, articles, list dash articles. That should be working. Let's go see what's going on. So, LiveWire, nothing apparently. Apparently we're not even, oh, I'm loading it as if it's a blade component, aren't I? Oh, there we go, LiveWire. There we go, now we're good. So we are loading in a nice LiveWire component here. Doesn't have anything in it yet, but we will get around to that. So this whole page is going to just be a LiveWire component to allow you to list it, and it's going to just have some magical stuff going on. And eventually we're going to be using the wire UI. We called it wire UI? No, wire elements. We're going to be using wire elements to kind of open up a modal, do this, and then ping something back, and we're going to see what we can do. So that is that main part there, which means that we need to look at testing LiveWire as well. So let's come over to LiveWire, come to the docs, scroll down to UI niceties testing. Here's a component acting as a LiveWire test for a component. Set some information, call something. We're going to test some initial information and assert that we see. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So from a testing perspective, our next step is to, dashboard articles, great, cool. Let's see what we can do. So index controller, that's kind of done with now. We don't need that anymore. We can move on. So let's come up to our component or our test. We'll start creating our test, right? Dashboard articles test. We'll do it all in this part of the file because this is all about how we're managing articles, and we'll just add our tests in here. So it can load the LiveWire component to see a user's articles. Function. Wait. Function. So first off, acting as user factory create. We are a user now. So what we want to do is, hey Andy, how you doing, buddy? So first off, we're gonna log in. We are now a user. Next thing, article factory create, where the user ID is auth ID. Simplify that one. We're just going to create an article. One article for now. And here's our article. If I could spell today. What is going on with me? Where's our article so far? Acting as a user. Here is an article. Then we're going to say LiveWire test the list articles class. Simplify that one. And we are going to assert that we see. We kind of want to assert an array here, don't we? Or we want to make sure that we see that at some point. So assert C. We want to make sure that we see the title is required. Can create a post, can set an initial title. Title is required. That's just redirecting component presence. Okay, so we can just make sure that the component's loaded as well. So we could go. Let's start that way and start seeing how we're going to do it. Assert. Assert what? Assert C LiveWire. How are these? Where are these test helpers? Oh, it's because we call it. That's meant to be a. This get, not a live, not a. Okay, so that part's not going to work. So we'll just stick with a LiveWire aspect to it. So LiveWire test the component name. Assert C. Let's see, I guess. Test, and we don't. So currently we're not loading anything on that component itself. So let's come up to that component. So app HTTP LiveWire dashboard articles list articles. So the first thing we want to make sure we do is our articles are going to be, well, it's kind of similar to what it's saying there. This get articles, because if we ever need to refresh this, we want a specific method we can call. Like if we're going to poll this at all, we kind of need that. So we can do that. That's not app articles though. So we can just kind of import app models article latest. And we're just going to do a get. We're going to paginate eventually. This is going to return a collection, but an eloquent collection. We're going to declare strict types there. There's articles. Then on our view, or our list articles here, this is just going to be a UL with a for each articles as an article. for empty, when it's empty, no articles found. And then in here, we're just going to say article title done. And that should be it. Yeah, we will. I'm going to change it. Don't worry, Adrian. I am going to change that. So, a test. Is it for? It's for else, isn't it? I think for else empty. And for else. I believe that's correct. I haven't done UI stuff in I haven't done UI stuff in a while. So as Adrian said, we do need to change this to be specifically for my user. So for empty is amazing. So what you can do is, let's say you've got a Tailwind UI license, which I do. I just can't remember the login. I'm going to have to open up Chrome in another window and have a look. My personal Chrome, Tailwind UI, and tell you what I'll do, I will just quickly bring that over. There we go, I do have a login. So look for empty states. You can literally just kind of grab this. In here you can create a very specific component. You can create a blade component for that and then just use that. It's really nice. But that's probably, I digress. We'll come back to that. There's some articles looking good. So get rid of that A. What we want to do is now amend this. So we want to make sure that they belong to our authenticated user. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. That isn't it. We could return auth user articles latest. I think we can do it this way. Get. I think we can do that way. No articles found for my currently logged in user. That is probably right. And so that's one way we can do it quite nicely and easily. And while that works, we're not having to do too much craziness. We are doing another query, so we may as well make it a query that we can understand, because we're going to have extra parts to the query that we want to be worrying about, right? So to start with, I sort all of my queries with the query builder. So we're going to order by our latest. That's fine. We want to make sure that the user ID is the current author, or the current logged in user, should I say. So we're doing good there. What else can we do? Generated slug. We want the status to be something else, right? We want to make sure it's published. Well, maybe not right now, but later on we might want to look at just published if we start looking at filters and stuff. So, we're still getting a collection back. We're still looking good there. Render, okay, so that is returning a view contract. Support illuminate view contracts view. Yeah, we're looking good there. So far, so good. Starting all queries with query means that you get better IDE completion. So, for example, difference between article create, you can't find that, but if you go article query create, we got IDE auto completion, and as you can see, we got other auto completion going on too. So it allows you to write smarter code just by dipping into that query. Test that you don't see articles from other users. That is a very good idea. That is my next test. So this is why I love streaming. People, you know, people help. Assert don't see. Hey. So values. Article for second. Oof. So second article is going to be article factory. This will, I believe, create a new, a whole new user, which is fine because I need that. What is going on with my typing today, right? It's just not behaving. There we go. So although I would, yeah, I kind of feel like that should be in a separate test, but it makes sense. We can keep that in here. That is GitHub Copilot. I got access not that long ago. It's useful to an extent. It helps. That's all I can say. It helps. So we're acting as a user. We create ourselves an article, and then we do this. What other assertions can we do? Assert count. Name articles value. We should only have one. I'm wondering if this is going to work because I actually don't know if this will work. No. Must be countable or iterable. No, that's dipping into something else. So let's just close that off. Come back to here. Testing. We can test calling methods. We can test seeing certain things, and we can test stuff. So seeing something, calling something, then seeing if errors appear. So yeah, we could do some basics. Can handle an array of values. Yeah, I'm going to get back to that, Adrian. I'm going to get back onto a few other things with that one. So first off, we can load the LiveWire component to view users' articles. That is great. So now if we come back to here, our current user has no articles. So what we kind of need to do is come over to here, and we just need to kind of like grab something like a action panel, no, sign in, no, like a, I hate tables. Tables are just so horrible. Card headings, page headings. Here we go, page headings. It's going to grab that. So here's our page heading. What I would probably do is add that. Grab that. I mean, I'm going to go through the design separately on a separate stream where people who are more interested in the design aspect of it can tune in. But for now, we're just going to keep it relatively simple. A few components that I'm nicking from here or there. This is probably going to need to have this running in the background, because obviously it's using JIT by default now. So we've got edit and publish. So we're going to just drop that edit. We're going to drop that into an A for now. There's an A. We're just going to turn that into create. And we're going to add a nice simple, well, we don't need that margin left anymore, do we? Let's just drop that. So href you can go to a root, pages, dashboard, articles, create. We'll go create a new one. So this probably won't work because that root doesn't exist yet. That's fine. So we can start adding tests for this too. So list articles we don't need right now. Dashboard we'll remove. List articles, no. That we don't need because we've now added stuff, so we're good. Articles test we'll keep. And our next one, our create. We already created that controller, didn't we? So what we can do, create controller, create, click, that's going to that controller there. So let's start looking at testing it. So it can load the articles page, it can load the LiveWire component to see a user's articles listed. Next test, it can load the create form for articles. You know, we want to be able to load it, right? Hey Bernard. So again, we're going to act as, and typically what I do is I do a before each, but we're going to want to make sure that you can only do certain things if you're logged in at the same time. So like this, for example, can load the dashboard articles page. This needs an unhappy path. So it redirects from the dashboard article page if not logged in. So drop that there. 302 it. Run our tests and we're good. This one hasn't got anything yet because it's not been done, but it redirects if not logged in, so we're good there. It can load a LiveWire component. Well, that won't be loading unless you're logged in. Can load the dashboard article pages. It's listed. It can load the create form for articles. So we have logged in. The next step is we're going to do a GET request. Our URI is going to be root, pages, dashboard, articles, create. First off, assert that our page loads with no known issues. And our test, we are good. So that part works. We now need to click it here and we need to return a view. And drop that. That's a view. So no longer need that to be, yep, that's good. Declare strict types up there, so return view. So we're going to go to pages, dashboard, articles, create. All we need. We're going to fail because that does not exist. So now if we go and just create that view in our resources, views, dashboard articles, new file, and we can create a create.blade.php. Ah. So our create is going to be Let me just grab that for now, drop that in there. Probably going to just grab that. We're going to have a new form in here, in there. So what we want to do here is, that's returning, that should now be passing, obviously, which is great, but now we need to actually see what's going to happen, what's going to go on the page. We need more than just, cool, 200, we're good to move on. So articles test, it can create loads of create form for articles. So we basically want to create a new article create form of some description. Make LiveWire dashboard articles list articles. So articles create form. Working so far. Pretty happy with that. So on this part here, we can say LiveWire dashboard articles create form. So let's just comment that out, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that this component loads right. We want to say LiveWire test create form. Let's just fix this as well. So we got a create form. We want to assert that we see part of that form which values, let's say we're expecting to see create a new article or something. So this one test. Okay, so we're not seeing that. So now what we need to do is go play with that. So drop index. We want to make sure that's loading. Still not passing, which is expected. The create controller can go away now. We don't actually need that at the minute. So here's our create form. So if we come back to here, we can look at like some form layouts. We'll go for this one, for example. This one, something like this would do. I think it needs to be. We want it to be relatively plain and standard. Just copy that for now. We're gonna drop it in there, and that's it for now. So we're seeing all of this. This is all looking good. Obviously now if we run a test, it fails. But what we're actually hoping to see is create a new article, which on our form, if we just, I'm not going to go into too much detail with the design, with the UI stuff. It's more about components right now. So let me just drop all of that. So this is going to say publish, and this is going to say create a new article, which is similar to what that's meant to be saying. Create a new article. I'm going to copy and paste it, make sure it looks exactly the same. Create a new article, a test, and now we see it. That component has loaded, and that's enough for now. The next step is to start setting values. So great, we can see that. So now we want to set, so if we go have a look at our article, we want to set the title values. We want the title to be test article. Why is this complaining? Set name value. Oh. That's test article. Assert C text. There we go. Let's give that a whirl then, Adrian. So create new article expecting. That's my fault. Property title not found on component S. Now we're good. So let's go back to our component. So we can go to our component all the way up here, our create form. So this is what we have by default. This is obviously rendering a view. Don't need to pass any information to start with. So public string title. Now it's going to be nullable to start with, so it's null string. So if you delete it, it still exists. So now if we run our test, we can actually set that title and we're good. So here's our create form. Here's a username. We're going to drop that. Cool. So we can have title there, type, name, title, ID, title, label, title, autocomplete off. Don't want any of that on there. Then we've got some class-based stuff. So now we can just say wire model title. The whole form is a LiveWire component, which means we can be pretty, have some, do some nice stuff with it. So let's go to our create form. We're going to default that to test, for example. It's automatically in there. Great. So now, if we come over to our articles test, set that. We're going to assert C values test article. If we set this, do we see it? Basically, that's the kind of behavior we're now doing. So apparently not. No, I'm not focusing on the HTML at the minute, Adrian. I wouldn't worry. This is purely just LiveWire. So set that. I don't think. Do we need to assert seeing it? I don't know if we actually do. Can set an initial title. We can pass that through there. And you can assert C that the title is that. Now it's working. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that up there. So we're asserting that we see that. So we're going to set that and make sure that we can actually see it on the page. Now that's just us testing that binding's working right. We don't need to worry about that. So I don't think we need to worry about asserting. We're setting a value. That's how LiveWire works. That should work anyway. But what we're going to do, we're going to set some We're going to build up our form, submit, and see how it works. So the next step is we're going to set the next aspect of this. We're going to say we're going to set content, and the value that we want it to be right now is well, we're just going to do a normal string for now. I'm not going to worry about the markdowny stuff. This is some article content. Isn't it lovely? Now, I know I can do the escaping character stuff there, but that's not vital for what I'm doing here. So we're now going to set the content. So let's make sure we get this passing. So here's our form, and our next step is our content. So get some content. We're now good. So our bare minimum when it comes to creating an article, if we come down to our database migrations, look over our articles here, we're going to need a status. That's going to be done by default. That's going to be an action where we decide, should it be published, should it not be published. Beside the point, for this very moment, we need a title, an excerpt. That's going to be, for now, yeah, we'll set that. We're going to set that manually. I think it's important to be able to set that manually. So we want the excerpt 2. Let's make sure I spell it the correct way everywhere. So that article test. Value. We can just be nice and clean like that. We're setting some values, we're building up our form as we go. So we're going to have a title that is generated. This part is generated. These aren't required. The user ID will get done depending if you're logged in or not. Well, when you're logged in, you can't do it otherwise. And we need a category. But it needs to be a category ID. So public null int category. I'm going to start out off as null. And what we're going to do, we're going to have a public array of categories. I'm going to say public function mount. And then when we are mounting this, we're going to say this categories equals category query latest get to array. So we're just going to get all of them basically. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to look at doing, Adrian. Building up to things. So here's our categories. So over on PHPOnline here, created out an order clause from categories doesn't have. There we go. Silly Steve. So have I got a drop down in here? Here we go. We got country. So we're going to reuse that country part there, so we can come back to our create form. There's our title. Here is our content. ID, content, name, content. Go through that. That looks all good. Right, if you write your article here, and then it's going to quickly wire model this one, and we're just going to say that's content. Awesome. And then we can pretty much kind of put this for our excerpt. Please make sure this is no longer than 120 lines. Characters. There we go. Add some character limits in there. So, excerpt, content. Photo, definitely don't need. Cover photo. Definitely not going to be needing that. So now we're getting down to personal information there. Don't need that. First name, nope. Last name, email address. This is what we need. The country. So the next step is this. So this is where it's going to be category. Category, select ID, category, autocomplete, can go away, and then we can just kind of wire model category. For each. And for each option, value, category, ID, category name, coming from a database, we're all looking good. There we go, that's all of those. So, means we don't need a street address, we can drop that. I don't think we're going to need anything else really, so we can drop that, drop that, drop that. All of it, and there we go. Save and cancel, all in there, looking good. So we've got our UI working, basic UI. We're going to look at Filament in a moment if we get a chance, but we're going to test. We want to make sure that we can do stuff right. So we want to make sure we can set the title, set the excerpt, set the content. Then we want to set the category. So the name is category, value is probably want to category, factory, create, simplify that one. So down here we can then say category ID. So test. So what's going wrong? So can't use position argument after a named argument in article test line 79. What did I miss? There we go. So we've cast that to an array, we've got the category ID there, so we can set it. So at this point, we've got everything that we need to create an article, basically. So this is where our create form needs to do something. And hey, Dave. Oh, Here's Dave. Good old David Pye. He start using my postcode.io LiveWire package when he's trying to sort other stuff. Glad you like it, Dave. That's probably one of my more popular packages, actually. I think. There we go. LiveWire postcodes. Yeah, it's one of my more popular packages. Is it still being used a lot though? I mean, I use it a lot, but to other people. 48 installs in the last 24 hours. Yeah, it's not bad. 853 installs in 30 days. It's seeing as it's super limited to like just the UK as well. That's not bad. I'm not going to complain about that. Definitely not going to complain about that. So, why am I setting categories as a public? To be honest, I don't need to. I can just set categories down here. It means I don't need that mount method. You know, that will achieve the exact same thing. Makes no difference. Hey, how you doing? So the next step is it's listed on the postcodes.io packages homepage. Sweet. It's always good when they start to like the packages you created for them without meaning to. So the next step is we need to look at like validation rules. How do we want to validate? So there's a few ways you can validate in LiveWire. Can I do that yet? Is it? I haven't used LiveWire in a while. Let's just go double check the syntax because I've not used it in a little while. Yeah, that's definitely the wrong one. Laravel livewire.com. So docs. Validation. Protected rules. No, I can do. Apparently it's not complaining, so I'm going to stick with it. So we're going to have title. Title is required. Must be a string. Have a minimum count of 2 and have a maximum count of. Now I would say 255, but that's going to be a bit excessive as I'm auto converting a string to a slug, which is going to drop the spaces, add a dash. Yeah, I don't want them to be that long. I want to have some level of limit in there. So if we think about like a really long title here and we say, you know, tutorial on building this awesome thing using this framework on this version. You're not going to want something that big, right? And to be super picky, you could pluck instead of get and use a key in the blade. I could do, but you know, PR it. This is very much, you know, we're getting 150 characters, by the way. It's very much an open source project for the community to use. I'm just doing some stuff for tutorial purposes. I'm not aiming at being, this is the best way you should ever write things. This is, let's build stuff, refactor as we go. If people have suggestions, pass them out. Love to hear them, obviously. So excerpt. So what we've got here again, this is required. Actually, what we'll do is we'll make this nullable and we'll see why. So it's going to be a string, minimum of 2, and again a maximum of 120 characters. Then the content is obviously required. Again, this is going to change as soon as we start looking at like how we're going to do other things as well. But we're going to go min of 2. I'm not going to add a max because it is a medium text in the database, which means I could probably work out how many characters it takes. In fact, we will ask Google. Hey Google, how many characters can a MySQL medium text column hold?
Sure. Here's some helpful information I found on the web.
So, medium text can hold 16,777,215 characters, which is 16 megabytes. I probably don't need that much. However, it also means that I don't really need to worry about adding a max on here right now. We'll look at that later if the need arises. And then category. This is a required field. This is going to be an integer. And it's got to exist in categories. That's our validation. We're still passing, nothing's changed, that's good. So what I typically do, I have a submit button. This is where we say this validate. That validates. I then create the article. I then redirect somewhere. And that's it. That's all we need to do here. So the next step is basically going to be, okay, let's look at creating something. We're expecting this to redirect, but we're at the minute we're focusing on let's get this created. So to do that, zoom, scroll all the way back. I'm still not getting used to this 13-inch screen, by the way. I definitely think I'm going to have to pull out the monitor again at some point. Definitely when I move. So the first thing, if you've watched any of my streams, you know that I like to write these actions and these things in a very specific way. So we're going to carry on that. We're going to call it tradition, and we're going to carry on doing it. So let's come down to Composer to start with. We've got Filament, we've got loads of cool stuff in there. That's all good. Here's our auto load. So, domains. Is going to be in source domains. So if I just hover over this, create directory, hover over that, that's going to create that directory. So now I can compose a du-o, dump the autoloader. Now we're looking good. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to close that down. This form we're going to still want. Article we don't need. Article test we do need. That we don't need. That we don't need. And this for now we don't need. We'll come back to that and we'll uncomment things as and when. But what we need to do now is source domains. So we are going to have a publishing domain. So this publishing domain is going to have some value objects within it. And within here, we are going to have an article value object. Declare some strict types. So what does our article value object need? Okay, construct. So this needs a string for the title. It's great, we can do that. We want a string for the excerpt. We want a string for the content. And we want an integer for the category. So this is almost a reflection on our LiveWire component at this stage. we are doing something very similar. So what we can do now is public function to array. This is going to return an array. Title exit content category, title exit content category. Pretty useful. It's plain old PHP. Copilot works really well. Keep an eye on the time. Make sure I don't go on too far. So the value of the article value object is to allow me to create something very consistent. I mean, you build a request. Your request body is then an array. You pass that off to an object or another class to do something with. You're just passing an array from here to there. There's no validation on the content of what is within there. So you've got to do lots of kind of juggling of, does the array key exist? Does this exist? Does this not exist? Whereas creating it as a class, as a value object or a data transfer object, it means that there's validation and everything's always consistent. And it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it just looks nice too. So what we can also do is in our units down here, what we're going to do, we are going to create value objects. And within here, I'm just going to create a quick unit test for articles test. Don't really need to do this because this might be a little bit too. So what is the difference between value? This is a very good question. So the long answer is very similar to the short answer. There is no difference. It's a naming convention. Traditionally, if you look in any textbooks, such as the blue book or the red book for domain-driven design, two very good books by the way. They call them data transfer objects, and a lot of more old things. They call it value objects. It's a more modern thing that people call it domain transfer objects. I still call them value objects, but there's no difference. It is just a PHP object that you use to pass between classes and objects. So let me just write this quick test. So it can create a new article value object. Nice and simple. So what do we want this to do basically? We just want to make sure we can create one, right? Nothing. That's not what I want. So it can create a new value object. So to do this, to do it nicely, I mean, there's an easy way and there's a nice way, right? I could just go expect new article value object, simplify that one. I could just say that the title is test, content is test, category is 1, and the excerpt is test. Yeah, I could quite easily do this, and yeah, that's passable, right? That's doing it. So article make and fill all fields. We'll save after filling details. I don't quite get what you mean there. Yeah, of course I can do. So you know the blue one but not the red one. It is implementing domain-driven design. It's the follow-on. The blue one is a theory. The red one is the practice. It's okay. It doesn't. It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. If it's an old book using an older language, you kind of expect it to be, not quite perfect, right? So look, we can create a DTO, but that's a kind of a cheating, horrible way to do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to come over to our test directory here, data sets in here. We're going to create a new PHP file called articles. We don't need to declare strict types. I just like doing it, by the way. We're going to create a new data set. We're going to create some articles, and we're just going to say things like this is the story all about how my got flipped, turned upside down. So let me take a minute, just wait right there. I will tell you all about how I became the Prince of Bel Air. I cannot believe I actually know the lyrics to that one, give or take. They might not be 100%. So what I can now do is come over to my article test here. Yeah, still definitely worth a read. If you're interested in DDD at all, those books are the gold dust. So here's our articles, and what with is going to do here, it is going to pass in an instance at a time. So in our case, it's going to pass through a string with a title. So what we're going to do, we're simply just going to put title on everything, and we're expecting that to be an instance of this, and we're expecting title to equal title. That is all we're doing. So if we come over to here, now we can run that. So if we scroll down, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, blah blah blah. So as you can see, we are testing with the Prince of Bel Air lyrics, and it works using data sets. And Nunu, you're welcome. That's how you do it. That's how you do data sets. These should be created as packages so that you can pull them in, and it'll just be so much fun. So value object, article test. I can create an article, great. So moving on, because I've been doing it for an hour and 37 minutes. I want to make sure I get stuff done. My next step is, there's our value objects. What we need next is, if you're going to follow traditional DDD, your factories. And what you need an article value object factory, but it's a bit of a mouthful, so I call it an article factory at this point. Article factory. Now, if I was doing this on a larger project where there's a lot more going on, then I would most likely add an interface for my factories here, but I'm not going to do that right now. What I typically do is I do a public static function make, because I like my factories to have a make on them, and this is going to return a value object. So this is going to return an article value object. Now this make method here is going to accept an array. We'll call it payload. You could call it attributes, you could call it data, payload, data, you literally whatever you call it. It doesn't matter, it's just a variable, right? But all we're going to do is return a new article value object where the title is the attribute title, where the excerpt is the article, the attribute excerpt, where the content is that, where the category is that. And that is it. That's all it needs. So, as always with anything that you're doing, you should probably be writing tests around it. So in my unit tests, I can come over here, create a new directory, factories, and we can create a new file for articles test. What framework have I used before? Oh god, now there's a story. a lot, basically. I've used a lot of different frameworks. I've used Zend, Laminas, Cake, Yi, Falcon once, didn't like it. I spent a lot of time using Slim. Used Symfony, also not a big fan. It was a little bit too wordy for me. I felt like I was taking a long way around doing things, and if I was going to do that, I may as well have used something like Slim PHP. It's a good framework, but it just wasn't for me. You can create a new article value object, very similar to before. Don't worry, I'm not being broke. No one's breaking into the house. It's my wife going to get laundry from the looks of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to probably do exactly the same here with the width. And then we're just going to add a string for the title that we're going to use. And she's getting a massive yoga ball. Almost dropping everything along the way. Oh, it's never a dull moment in my house, I promise you that much. So what we're going to do here is we want to make sure that the factory returns the value object correctly. So we will say expect the article factory, domains publishing factory is not the database one, to make. Simplify that one. And this is going to have attributes. So this is going to take a title. It is also going to take an excerpt, which is going to stick as title. It's going to take the content, which we're just going to stick as title. And it's going to take a category, which is an integer, which we're just going to pass through 1, because that part doesn't really matter. So we expect this to be an instance of article value object now. But we're also going to expect the title to equal the title that's passed through down here. So now we had 12 tests. We run our tests again. We got 5 failed apparently. So undefined array key excerpt. I probably spelt it wrong. There we go. We've now got 17 tests because we're testing each string through, and it's, I suppose you could class this almost as like mutation testing a little bit, but not at the same time. It's just passing it different items and making sure it all works each time that you run it. So create, it can create new article value object, done. Done, article factory, done, article value object, done. So this test, we don't need that. To the create form, what this is going to do, we want to be able to create an article, right? To create an article, we need to create a value object, but we need to pass that to something. And we need the consistency. So that is where we then move on to actions. Now actions is a little bit like a service class, where every method of that service class has been split out into its own class. So instead of having article service create, we have a create article action. It makes sense. Go with me on it. Actions. Publishing actions. I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to create a new article. That's it. Very simple. Create a new article. We're going to declare some strict types. We're going to have a static function called handle because we want our actions to be handled. And what that is going to do, that is going to return a new eloquent model. It is going to accept a article value object as an object. Because then what we can do is that we can make an interface with that really easily. And that's what you got to think when you're creating some of these classes. Is you got to think, okay, so how could I be a little bit stricter with this, and how could I do something? How can I start doing more? Yeah, it's like use cases in clean architecture. I actually did something on clean architecture, but that's a different story. So we'll say return new. Return article model. Then we're going to query. Then we're going to create, and that passes that. So what we're going to pass through to create, that accepts attributes. So I can say our attributes is going to be this object to an array. That's not going to work, but it can work. So basically, when this goes to an array, it just means that we just got to pass it through like that. That the category ID is actually this category, and for all intents and purposes, that will be absolutely fine with no issues in doing it that way. Because the only time you are casting this value object to an array is when you're doing an insertion in an action, and that's fine in my eyes. Might not be for you, in which case, juggle it the way that you'd like to do it. User is missing. I knew there was something. So we continue. So our create new article, we're getting an object, and we are also going to get an int for the auth ID. So now we can array merge that with user ID being auth ID, and we've now solved that issue. So where we go from here is to create an article. Bear with, we would say if we wanted to actually have access to it, we'd add this here. We'd say article. We'd do that for now. So we'll create a new article. Create a new article. We are going to handle that. Now by handling, we need to pass through an object. That object is going to be part of the article factory, which is going to make something. That is going to make something based off of some attributes. Those attributes need to be passed in. We have a title, which is this title. We have an excerpt, which is this excerpt. We have a content, which is this content. We have a category, which is this category. We validated at this point, bear in mind. We have validated and we're good. So where's our factory? We've created that. The auth ID is going to be auth ID. Now we don't want to do that here. We want to pass that through because we might be doing it through a CLI or through something else where we need to control passing that in. That will give us an article. So because we're going to redirect, we don't need that. We can now say return. Are you sure we can say like this, redirect? Yeah, where the URL root name. I don't do root name because it seems to break every time I use it. So that's like one of my exceptions. Why is that complaining? Oh, okay. So I can just say this redirect. So I don't need to actually do. Yeah, we're good. So basically, when we create this, it then just links. So what we need to do on the UI aspect quickly before we forget, because we will forget. Well, I will forget. You won't. You'll remember. You'll tell me, and I won't get a chance to change it. So let's just go down to create form on the submit. And we're just going to do a quick wire click submit. We're going to add a wire submit.prevent submit. Technically, we shouldn't need that click event. Technically, we should just be able to have that type submit down here, and that will work. So in theory, this should work. Test, 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 save. Cool. Unknown column category in where clause. Okay, so in our validation rule, create form, categories as ID, save, validate, slow status and have a default value. That's fine. I expected that. So we're getting there. So by default, what we want this to do is when we're creating a new article, we're going to do this, and we're going to do some checks up here. So this, basically what we want to do is we want to say something like, okay, so is the auth user, so if I go back to that user model, you'll see what I'm about to talk about. I'll be verified, basically. Is the auth user verified already? If so, auto publish. Otherwise, we want to go through a moderation process. So I'm pretty sure that's processing. There we go. So basically what we want to do here is our status is going to be, okay, so user, we're going to query this. I know it's probably not what we want to be doing. So if the user where find or, yeah, I don't need that where, I can just do the find. Find based on the auth ID been passed. If it's verified, then we are going to do a article status published. Otherwise, we're going to do an article status pending. So then what I would do, because that's starting to get a bit long to read, right? Yeah, it might be better if I just pass the user. I get what you mean there, Adrian. Let's just pass through that user. That is a very good point. That auth ID is just... It's not helping anyone there, is it? Auth user, that's going to complain because auth user is actually going to give us something that's authenticatable. So what I can do is authenticatable or user, just handle that. There we go. Hey Nathan, thanks for coming, buddy. So basically, if we are verified, we're going to be published. Otherwise, we are going to be pending. And what we now need to do is just merge this in as well. So we can do status is going to be status value. Done. Is there a status value method? I don't think there is, so I'll just do value. So there we go. Nice and clean. Add a helper on the user default article state. I might refactor to that. Right now I'm pretty happy with doing it like this. Only for now though. Only for now. So the next step is drop the guard. We don't need that. That should be working. That's fine. Article test. we want to go down to testing quickly and make sure that we then click on or call submit. So call a method submit. So what we're doing is acting as can load the blah 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 user factory. So for that, I'm going to expect the article query count to equal 0. I'm going to make sure that passes first. Where are we failing? Root dashboard.articles.index not defined. Okay, that's the redirect stuff in our LiveWire component up here and in here. Root pages dashboard articles index. There we go. We're looking good. We're looking good. So that can be closed for now. Back form, not needed. That, not needed. We're looking good there. So what we're expecting by the time we've done all of that is to have a new article. Assert has no errors. That's probably a good call as well. So call (17 passed in 0.22 seconds. So we've got a new article that's been created by using the LiveWire component, and that is how easy it is to test with LiveWire. Oh, almost 2 hours. So I like to write tests for this. So let's drop that down in our domains, in our tests, in feature, pages, dashboard. Create a new one in here. Actions. We're going to say new file, create new article. Refactor and rename, refactor, rename, test, declare strict types. So it sets the default status to pending for a non-verified user. So acting as, simplify that one, user factory create. So what I need to make sure is that my user factory does in fact allow passing this through. Verified. Yep, I can pass that through. Perfect. Let's drop that user because I don't need that one. So simplify that one. So we're in the user and we are going to say that verified is false. We now need to call that action. So create new article. You're going to handle it. So this is like just doing what other things. So for the UI, this isn't needed, but this is how I like to do it. So then the object that I'm going to create is going to be that new value object. So I've already tested the factory. I don't need to now do a factory to create it. I can just do it this way. I can do it manually. I can say new article value object. Let's simplify that one. And because we're going to be doing it, we can say with articles. And for each one, we can just pass this string title through. Yes, it's going to complain, but I don't really care about that right now. So then we're going to have our title is title excerpt. We're going to set that to the title too. The content is the title. And what we're going to quickly do is category, factory, create. I'm going to create a quick factory while we're here. And then that means that the category that I pass through is going to pass any sort of validation that we have going further down the line. And then the user that I need to pass through to this handle method, this user, can be the auth user. Auth user, done. That's creating a new article there. So what I need to do up here is just quickly expect that article. Make sure I'm getting the right thing. So make sure that the articles, we've got 0 up there, that we are actually going to create one here, so it fails early there. And then if it does create it, what we can do is expect the article query, the first one. We'll just do a quick cheeky to be an instance of the article class. I mean, we don't need to, but if we're going to do assertions, we might as well do some assertions. That feels like cheating though, doesn't it? That really does feel like cheating. So we are going to expect that the title to equal the title. Make sure that's definitely done. And then we're also then going to want to say that we want the status to equal pending. So article status pending value. Pull this down, simplify that. My test, that works. So it sets a default status to pending for a non-verified user, and then same thing but published. It sets a default status to published for a verified user. So now we are saying true. Create, blah, blah, blah. Published. Run that test and we're good. 27 tests, looking good. That is our article tested, our LiveWire component tested, the page with its loading being tested, everything being tested, and we're good. We haven't done a lot. What I'd like to do, I'm going to speak to Dan Harron, who created Filament, see if he can join me. I might do some stuff in the meantime, in my spare time, to kind of create the UI a little bit, so we don't have to worry about doing that on the stream, unless people want to see it. Assert database count. That is kind of doing the same sort of thing though, right? I mean, we're doing expect count to be 1, and you're saying assert a database count, that class to be a number. It kind of one and the same, really. That to me looks nicer. So I am going to add all of this. Testing LiveWire component and unit testing domain code. I'm going to push all that up. So, okay. Wrong bloody thing. Git pull. I had a merge request from somebody that I forgot to push up or merge. There we go. We are good. Don't have to manage any merge requests. So that is creating articles. Obviously the UI sucks, but we can actually create an article. We'll worry about the UI later. Right now, we're focusing on the functionality. Let's allow that to be done, and then we're going to pull in this LiveWire component for the markdown stuff. Replace our text box with that component. Make sure it still works, and then we can start testing and converting and doing some magic and to make sure stuff happens the way we want it to. So that is where we are with PHP Online. But I'm not going to be streaming on Thursday this week, as I am speaking at PHP Minds, which is PHP Midlands. PHP Minds. Here we go. So integrating the API, you can click on the RSVP. There's a meetup here, meetup link, which I still need to make sure I go to. What I'll do, I'll drop the link in here. If you are available. My wife just reminded me. Thank you. So go to phpminds.org. I will be speaking on Thursday, so I won't be streaming, but I'll be streaming somewhere else, just not on YouTube or under my channel. It might be available on YouTube, I'm not too sure. Last time I believe it was either a Facebook or Zoom link or one of those. Feel free to join me. Feel free to join us on PHP Minds. Really cool user group. And if you're in the UK, part of the PHP community, really good user group to talk to. They're Nottingham based. They're really cool. Spoke there before. Yeah, so that's why I won't be streaming on Thursday. So Tuesday will be my next stream. I don't have any other speaking engagements until the 25th. So we should be okay for a couple of weeks. As usual, in the description below, the link to my Discord. Feel free to join, ask me questions, join in the conversation. I regularly ask for advice of what people want to see. If you want to have some input on what I'm doing with PHP Online, it's easier for me to talk to you on there than it is, in the live chat while I'm streaming. Obviously, thinking of moving to the UK now. Come on, it's great in the UK. We've got rubbish weather, a muppet in charge of the government. I am definitely attending Laracon Winter, unless you're on about the EU one. Won't be attending the EU one. All the tickets just keep disappearing. Plus, I've got 5 kids. Leaving my wife to go on a conference holiday to Amsterdam while she's at home with 5 kids doing school. No, but I can't do that to her. Poor woman. I'll be doing the online one. I'll be tuning into the online one. I try not to do in-person events because I've got mobility issues and we've got a lot of kids and I don't want to spend that long away from my family, if I'm really honest. Which is why I do most of my talks online. But as I said, Discord link in the description. Feel free to join, have a chat, talk to us, have some input, join the conversation. We'll see. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, all the usual stuff, basically. Reach out to me on Twitter at JustSteveKing. So yeah, can't wait to see some more of you. Make sure if you do like or subscribe, I know what sort of content you're liking, so I can know what to do next. I'm going to be doing PHP Online for a little bit longer because I want to make sure I actually build and finish this project. I've been talking about it for over a year. I remember speaking on the Voices of the Elephant. When was that? When did I speak at the Voices of the Elephant? The Voices of the Elephant. Interviews with people in the PHP community stuff. You need to work for Jump24. The Discord link doesn't work. Oh, let me see what I can do. When did I last talk? I last spoke. I don't know. I'm going to struggle to find it, aren't I? I'm definitely going to struggle to find it. Where was I? Here I am. Back in October 2020, I was talking about PHP Online. Discord. I'm gonna go through. I'll edit the description and I'll put the new link in there, Adrian. Don't worry. But I'm gonna spend some time with my wife. This is why I'm streaming early. Looking forward to speaking to more of you. If any of you are looking for a job, and you are UK based, please. Unfortunately, we can't hire outside the UK. We are hiring full stack developers. If you're not full stack, you're more PHP, still have a talk to us. You know, we're hiring like 3 or 4 positions at the minute. So give us a shout. Come and join us. Fully remote, LiveWire partner, as we quite like to show on our website. It's a cool looking website. Yeah, come and join us. We want to know more. Reach out to me on Twitter. Reach out to the company on Twitter. Just reach out to someone on Twitter, right? Someone, it'll get back to me somehow. We are hiring. I'm quite nice to interview people. I'm quite nice when I'm interviewing you, so don't worry. No pressure. Come and join me. We've got a really cool team working on some cool projects. But until next time, have a good evening and good night.